Hello and welcome to Slow Night, Ancient Tales. Tonight we continue with the second part of Hyun Jin-geon's short story, The Fading Mist. Do you remember last time, that night when a strange letter arrived for Jeong-ae and she and her friend Hwa-ra argued over it? Tonight's story picks up from that very night. Hwa-ra, who snatched the letter away, heading alone to Namsan Park, and at last, the truth of who wrote that letter. Close your eyes and step back into that moonlit night once more. Let's briefly recall where we left off. A letter had arrived for Jeong-ae, containing a stranger's tender confession. Her friend Hwa-ra, noticing the handwriting wasn't a woman's, snatched the letter away after a brief struggle and left the house with it tucked against her chest. That evening, Hwa-ra spent a long time carefully getting ready. She washed her face again and again, sat before the mirror to fix her makeup, and chose her most treasured dress. Looking at her reflection, she smiled with satisfaction, and yet, without warning, tears welled up in an inexplicable sorrow. Dressing so carefully for this felt, somehow, humiliating. At 6:30, Hwa-ra left home and made her way to Namsan Park. Climbing to the ridge of the park, Hwa-ra carried a secret plan in her heart. The letter's owner was supposed to be waiting there for Jeong-ae that night, at 8 o'clock. Hwa-ra decided she would hide in the shadow of the pine trees and watch him wait in vain, growing more and more anxious as Jeong-ae never came. A cold smile crossed her face at the thought. The red sunset faded into ash gray, and darkness quietly settled over the mountain. Hwa-ra watched each person passing below the hill, sneering to herself at the thought that she held this man in her hands like a puppet on strings. But when the round moon rose, parting the clouds in the night sky, Hwa-ra's heart began, little by little, to drift elsewhere. How wonderful it would be, she thought, to gaze at this beautiful moonlight together with someone she loved. Even if his heart belonged to another, couldn't this one moment, this scenery, still be shared between them? Thinking this, she resolved that when he appeared, she would confess her feelings outright. She let herself dream that he would come to understand her true heart, and that a new love might blossom between them. Just then, someone brushed past her. Hwa-ra startled and looked up. The park had filled with more and more passers-by by now. Hoping against hope, she studied each face carefully, but none of them was the person she was waiting for. Time slipped away until it struck 10, and still, the one she waited for never came. Only the sound of leaves trembling in the moonlight brushed past her lonely heart. That same night, Jeong-ae, too, woke suddenly from sleep. Startled by the light filling her room, she opened the sliding door, only to find it wasn't dawn, but moonlight drifting in and out between the clouds. Drawn in by the sight, she sat by the window for a long while, watching the moon hide behind the clouds and then reappear. When the moon vanished behind the clouds, the whole world seemed to grieve. When it showed its face again, the world seemed to tremble with joy. In that beautiful night light, Jeong-ae found herself thinking of something called sacred love. She didn't know exactly what it meant, but she believed that those who found such love were blessed with joy and happiness, while those who didn't were left with sorrow. And she felt a faint flutter in her chest at the vague premonition that such a love would someday come to her too. Then, quite suddenly, she remembered the letter she had read that afternoon. Who could have sent it? Carrying that question with her, Jeong-ae soon drifted into a deep sleep. The next morning, waking late, Jeong-ae found another letter waiting at the edge of the porch. It had been slipped beneath the front gate, and the handwriting was identical to the one Hwa-ra had taken. The only difference was the date. Jeong-ae carefully unfolded it. Inside was an account of how, the night before, she herself had supposedly gone out to Namsan Park and waited late into the night for someone. It was written as though Jeong-ae had already given her consent to love him and promised to meet him. Yet, it was a story she knew absolutely nothing about. At the end of the letter was a request to meet again that evening at 8, at the same place, along with this signature, as the dawn wind scatters the candlelight, respectfully, Kim Chang-seop. Jeong-ae stared at the name for a long moment, then suddenly nodded to herself. Ah! Young-suk's cousin. A young man who had returned from studying in Tokyo a couple of months earlier due to family circumstances. Young-suk's cousin. Jeong-ae had met him a few times at Young-suk's house, a young man with a slender face and a quiet manner. They had first been introduced through Hwa-ra's playful prodding, and since then, she had run into him occasionally on visits, sometimes listening to him talk about Western novels, but she had no memory of sharing anything more than that with him. Jeong-ae sat there for a long while, letter still in hand. She had no way of understanding just where, in someone else's heart, without her even knowing, this night's promise had gone so terribly astray. That's tonight's story. Hwa-ra's silhouette, standing alone beneath the moonlight, waiting for someone who never came, and Jeong-ae's puzzled face holding a letter she doesn't understand, linger in the mind. Where exactly did these two hearts go astray? We'll unravel that answer slowly in the next episode. Tonight, set down whatever weighs on your heart and let yourself drift into quiet sleep. Have a warm night. Sleep well.